Welcome to Brands Hatch for the final round of the 2009 GT Cup. It's the last event of the season, but that hasn't stopped even more new faces coming to join us in GT Cup. One face in particular will be very familiar to motoring enthusiasts. This lady here needs no introduction. It is, of course, Vicky Butler-Henderson. Hi, Vicky. Welcome to GT Cup. Now, got to ask first, how are you feeling? Do you get any pre-race nerves?
I get a lot of pre-race nerves. In fact, last night I woke up probably 3 or 4 times in the night and just imagining what the racing start and the first lap was going to be. And yeah, I'm nervous now.
Have you ever raced a Ferrari before?
No, since I was a tiny little girl, I've always wanted to race a Ferrari, and today my dream has come true. Honestly, I'm pinching myself going around the circuit. It's such a delight, and I'm so grateful to everyone who's given me the opportunity to drive it. So, Cliff Fox, who's kindly donated it, and he's running with FF Corsa. They are a race-winning outfit. So yeah, words fail me.
We're down here on the grid. Vicky Butler-Henderson is starting here on the 3rd row. Right beside her, though, is the Group 1 Morgan Aero 8 of Howard Spooner. It's Vicky's first start in GT Cup, so it'll be interesting to see how she gets away. 2nd row, we've got the Lotus Europa over here. Now, this could be a really good car around this track, the Brands Indy, so watch out for that one. And then beside me here, we've got the Porsche 997. That's the Group 2 pole sitter. Jim Geddy behind the wheel there, so that one should be a quick one in Group 2. And then, of course, up on the front row, well, we've got the Dodge Viper here. That one's a familiar sight, isn't it? But that's starting actually 2nd place on the grid. Pole position, well, it's the BMW. Went really well in the wet yesterday. Let's see how it goes in the dry here today. The engines are starting, so let's go racing.
Peter Selden behind the wheel of the pole position, 590 brake horsepower BMW then. The cars flagged away then behind the pace car, ready for this rolling start. On board with Alex Martin in the Porsche. So front row BMW and Dodge. Peter Selden in the M3, Mike Gardner in the Viper. Jim Geddy is on row 2 alongside Chris Randall. Howard Spooner is on row 3 alongside Vicky Butler-Henderson. Around the Indy circuit, it's going to be a very crowded track indeed. 26 cars go for this first GT Cup race of the weekend. And the last driver on the grid, having missed qualifying because he wasn't here yesterday indeed, is John Taylor. So he's going to be starting at the very back of the grid. The pace car peels its way now into the pit road, and so we're about to go racing. It's Peter Selden on pole position in the car he shares with Matt, his son. He will race it in race 2. Mike Gardner alongside him as the drivers now work their way up towards the lights which go out. The race gets underway. 25 minutes around the Indy circuit. Peter Selden on the inside in the BMW. Mike Gardner swoops around the outside though to grab the lead, going up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Chris Randall slots it in 3rd in the Lotus, and already Mike Gardner is edging clear, look, as they go up the hill towards Druids for the first time. On board with Alex Martin, being lent on a little bit by Jeff Ledley that tries to come around the outside there. This is Vicky Butler-Henderson's view. Howard Spooner ahead in the Morgan. Down they come towards Graham Hill Bend. Vicky hard at work in 6th place then. Out of Graham Hill Bend onto Cooper Straight for the first time. The Ferrari, one of the quicker cars within Group 2, but Chris Randall's Group 1 Lotus there going through ahead of Jim Geddy, the Group 2 leader. Then Howard Spooner in the Morgan. Somebody runs wide there at the bottom of Graham Hill. Gary Eastwood it is, who goes out wide all over the grass. Chris Everill went through with the Ginetta, one of the Group 4 pace setters, as Howard Spooner bounces off the side of Jim Geddy's Porsche. That won't have done a huge amount of good to the Morgan. Goes through now though. Spooner drops back behind the Porsche as Randall comes through at the end of the lap, ahead then of Geddy. Then Spooner 5th. Vicky Butler-Henderson going very well in 6th, and the Fox-backed Ferrari. Alex Martin next up behind her as they drop down through Paddock, climbing up towards Druids. The top 2 long gone as far as everybody else is concerned, but Chris Randall here going pretty well in the Lotus. Only the 3rd time that has raced in GT Cup, the previous 2 being at the Silverstone International Circuit doubleheader. On board with Alex Martin, has a look up the inside there to get past Vicky Butler-Henderson's Ferrari. Can't find a way through. Marco Pullen trying to go around the outside of Colin Simpson though now. Great noise from the Morgan. Howard Spooner now on the tail of Chris Randall, looking for a way through, almost touching the back of the Lotus as they come out of Clearways into Clark Curve this time. Spooner goes for the inside line here, but Chris Randall's good enough, granted a straight line to fend off the Morgan. the rather better aerodynamics of Vellota's work in its favour. That, though, is Steve Parrish, I'm afraid, who's gone bouncing off the tyre wall, done damage to the front left corner, and he's going to head for the pit lane, I fear. Steve Parrish, relative newcomer to racing, impressive yesterday in qualifying, but having gone off the road now, is bound for the pit lane. It's not the end of the world for him, though, because there's another race to come still, as there Jeff Ledley goes up the inside to try to gain a place, and he's gone through at the expense of Vicky Butler-Henderson. That's for second in Group 2. Jim Geddes' Porsche leading the way. Alex Martin now right there behind the white Ferrari as they come onto Cooper Straight. The Group 2 battle then raging on here. Alex Martin, slightly greater experience of this car than Vicky has of the Ferrari, right on the tail.
Looks like you had some contact.
With the wall, nothing else, just the wall. So it's purely my fault, just overzealous through the section there and stuck it in the wall. So I'm not sure whether we'll get out this afternoon. Fingers crossed we will.
Steve Parrish out of the race. Alex Martin very much in the battle against Vicky Butler-Henderson. Look who blocks him going up now towards Druid. And Vicky at the same time, they're trying to work her way through traffic. Ahead is the BMW in the hands of Sarah Bennett-Baggs. Vicky Butler-Henderson defends from Alex Martin as they come down the hill now. Martin dives to the inside line. Then does he go through? No, there's contact between them. The Ferrari gets turned sideways. They carry on. Alex Martin goes through, moves ahead of VBH, but what sort of damage has the car sustained in all of that? We'll find out in a moment, because as they turn their way now up through Surtees and then McLaren, Alex Martin snaps sideways, a tyre has gone down on him. You can see it there, look, the right rear has gone flat, and that's a legacy of the contact between him and Vicky Butler-Henderson over at Graham Hill Bend. He tries to get the car fired up again, and he needs to, because otherwise, for the car stranded on the road, we may end up with a safety car, but he's got it going now, but with the tyre off the rim, that is heading for the pit lane and nowhere else really. Richard Denny there, number 25, ahead of Marco Pullen in Group 3. Now Richard has not yet had a win in the group, and this could be his day of days. He's keeping the very rapid Marco Pullen at bay, so Porsche heads Ferrari. The Par Motorsport run Porsche. This is Gary Eastwood's rear view, if you like, of what's going on behind him as the car comes up now towards Surtees. Gary Eastwood, who started racing in Formula Palmer Audi, had a brief spell in the British GT Championship, but he's under pressure there because the 911 Virgin.com Porsche of Henry Furman is giving him a really tough time now. Out of Clark Curve, up over the line, those two come. Now with such a short lap like this, traffic becomes a real problem, and the race leader, Mike Gardner, a dominant race leader no less now because he's pulled away from Peter Seldon, is soon to have to try to carve his way through traffic. Gary Eastwood turning his way out of Druids, accelerates downhill towards Graham Hill Bend, but Henry Furman is looking for a way by. Into the braking area now for the left-hander, but Gary Eastwood stands his ground, makes the run along the Cooper Straight part of the circuit, as there the Ginetta G20, one of the rare closed Ginetta G20s, leads Group 4. Chris Everill, the man behind the wheel of the car, and in a group that's been dominated by Aston Martins really for much of the year. Great sight to see something different, something very different in the shape of a Ginetta leading Group 4. The company celebrating its 51st year this year. Howard Spooner in the meantime, he's having to work overtime to keep Jim Geddes at bay. Jim leading his group still, of course, in the Porsche, despite the rapidly approaching Jeff Ledley as they come out of Clark Curve this time. Race order, Gardner leading, Seldon is in second place. Howard Spooner then comes up over the line now for third position. Fourth is Jim Geddes behind him, and round the outside there goes the Porsche. Jim Geddes goes through, but he's on the wrong line and he loses the back of the car, and off he goes. Jim Geddes flings the car into paddock and it doesn't come out the other side. Instead, he ends up in the gravel bed, and that is the end of Jim Geddes' race, the end of his group lead as well. That is going to promote Jeff Ledley now up into the lead of Group 2. It's going to put Vicky Butler-Henderson for second in the group as well. Howard Spooner turning his way down towards Graham Hill Bend now. Richard Denny turns out of Druids, keeping Marco Pullen at bay. But Spooner in the Morgan gets sideways, whoa, going up towards McLaren. Round comes the back of the car. It all started at Surtees, and then midway through McLaren, the back of the Mark Bailey Racing run Morgan overtakes the front of it. Howard Spooner sorts himself out, rejoins, but he'll lose a couple of places as a consequence of that. The Mike Gardner steamroller continues though, yet another win heading his way, and Peter Seldon has got a problem because the BMW has slowed relative to the Viper. Checker flag at the ready. Mike Gardner wins yet again in the GT Cup. That's 3 in a row. 2 at Silverstone last time out, 1 here. Mike Gardner wins, and Peter Seldon's BMW is still going, but only just. It's at a hobbled pace then as the car makes its way now up over the line. Peter Seldon hangs on to finish in second place, and third is going to be Jeff Ledley to win Group 2, as there Chris Everill's Ginetta wins Group 4 for the first time. Group 3 honours go the way of Richard Denny, and Jeff Ledley has made it home for third, ahead of Vicky Butler-Henderson. Howard Spooner 5th, and Ray Diaz rounds out the top 6. In the groups, well, Group 4, Ginetta wins thanks to Chris Everill, Matt Cummings Lotus second, Robert Koenig's Porsche third, Richard Denny fends off Marco Pullen and Henry Furman in Group 3. Group 2, Jeff Ledley ahead of VBH and Ray Diaz, and it's Mike Gardner, Peter Selden and Howard Spooner the top 3 in Group 1.
The grid, it looks like you got the move there on the first corner.
Yes, I did. Richard Moore, the team manager, and I discussed it beforehand and said, Mike, you better overtake him at the first corner or we're done. And so I'd inspected the green paint on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend and decided I could go up there if I needed to, and just decided to go all the way around the outside. And Peter was very fair into the first corner, and so I was able to make the move work. So I was really pleased.
You were having some good old battles there with Geddy at first and then with Vicky Butler-Henderson as well.
That's right, yeah. Fortunately, Jim Geddy, well, unfortunately for Jim, but fortunately for me, Jim lost it on Paddock Hill Bend and that let me through, so I was very pleased with that. Sorry for him, but he's got a very quick car.
Congratulations, Richard, your first ever win.
It is, Charlie, and I'm just so excited. It was a really great race to drive, and this result is just beyond my wildest dreams.
Brilliant result for you. Looked like hard work when you got out of the car. Did you feel it?
I sure did. I just said to one of the other chaps, I don't think I've worked that hard for years. It was really hard work. Marco was right with me the whole race, and at one stage got his nose in front, but I managed to get it back again, and it was just the whole race was just full on.
Now the Ginetta, good car around here?
It suits the track. It's no long straights and that sort of thing for the bigger cars to catch me. Go to some of the other circuits and catch me up again. So just swings and roundabouts.
Okay. Vicky Butler-Henderson, fantastic result for you. Your first GT Cup race, a podium. Well done.
I can't quite believe it. There were times when I wanted the race to finish a lot sooner than 25 minutes, that's for sure. I had a good start, good tussle with another a Porsche, yellow Porsche. We had a bit of a coming together. He picked up a broken alloy, but I soldiered on and just loved it, and I'm so happy. The team have been brilliant, so I must thank FF Corsa and Fox Motorsport and Pirelli.
Well, that was race one, another exciting race and loads of close racing throughout the pack. Join us in just a few minutes after the break for race 2. GT Cup really is a series that caters for all budgets, from professional teams with motorhomes, data engineers and driver coaches, to a man with a spanner and a van. Everyone's welcome here in the GT Cup paddock. Now, David Bottrell, it's fair to say you've got a more modest setup than some here in the GT Cup paddock. How hands-on do you have to be?
If I need to be hands-on, I can be hands-on. I think earlier in the year, I think go back to Stetterton. I needed to do some work on the car. I can throw spanners at the car if I have to. Prefer just to come each weekend, put petrol in, check the tyres and go out there and do the business.
Now, have you got anybody helping you?
I got my daughter Samantha and Jill. They come along and support me every round. You know, one-man band by myself, doing this against the big teams.
David Bottrell will start 24th on the grid for this final 25-minute GT Cup race of the year. And BMW commands pole position again because the car that was raced in the first event by Peter Selden is now in the hands of his son Matt. And the car, which had a fuel pump problem in race 1, changes driver, but it keeps pole position. Mike Gardner will line up alongside this grid based on a driver's second best time. Second row, Howard Spooner in the Morgan, Jim Geddy in the Porsche, Chris Randall shares row 3 with Steve Parrish. Lower down the order, Chris Everill missing from the grid sadly this time, having won Group 4 in the earlier race. We've also lost Sarah Bennett-Baggs from the grid. John Taylor starts last with his Porsche. Now, key to all of this is who leads into Paddock Hill Bend. Mike Gardner said after race 1 that he was absolutely determined to make sure that he led, and it was a brave move round the outside. But Matt Selden is a very rapid driver indeed, so Mike Gardner now might have his work cut out as the lights go out. Matt Selden then hugs the inside line up towards Paddock, breaks a bit later and gets the lead as well for the BMW. Matt Selden leads. In his mirror there's contact look because you can see Mike Gardner just bouncing off the side of Howard Spooner in the rear-facing camera, and a car in the background. Richard Denny has lost a tyre after contact as well, going through Paddock for the first time, but it's Matt Selden that leads the way. Gardner second, Spooner third. The top 3, all Group 1 cars then, make their way onto Cooper Straight for the first time, and so Matt Selden it is now that leads the way, and Mike Gardner here is going to have to work much harder for a race 2 win. It's not going to be easy at all to get past the BMW. Howard Spooner is in third place, so Matt Selden then leads the way at the end of lap 1, and he's getting away a little bit. Gardner goes a touch wide at Clearways. Howard Spooner gets right onto the tail of the Viper. Over the line now goes Viper versus Morgan for second and third places. The rest of the field all comes pouring through behind, but Peter Selden's car in the hands of Matt Selden now leading up front. Just wonder whether or not, if a battle does develop for second place, that might play into Matt's hands and enable him to pull away from the rest of them. At the moment, Howard Spooner is not staying with Mike Gardner. He gets a bit sideways there at Druids, and the smoke look coming out of the front of the Morgan. Now, is that a legacy of the contact that we saw between Mike Gardner and Howard Spooner at turn 1? Certainly now, look, the Morgan is fading. It's dropped way, way back. It's being caught by Jim Geddy for third and fourth places, those two now. And what that does is take the pressure off Mike Gardner. It means he can concentrate on Matt Selden. In turn, it puts the pressure now, it applies the pressure onto Matt Selden because he's the leader, but he's got Mike Gardner bearing down on him as Spooner goes off the road there. The Morgan just about gets away with that, but a place lost to Jim Geddy. Another one as Chris Randall goes past, but Howard Spooner now is really struggling. On board with Selden, but rear-facing shot showing you just how close Mike Gardner is. Matt Selden defends admirably the inside line going up towards Druids. It's got to be a fair old gap to accommodate a Viper anyway. Matt Selden is not to be deterred from his chosen line there going up towards the hairpin as Robert Koenig turns his way now out of Druids with Nima Kunda tucked up behind him as well. This the tail end battle in a sense. David Bottrell losing out to John Taylor, but these the drivers in perhaps the slower cars or the less well funded outfits doing this on a budget, all having a great race. You've got some of the older machinery here as well, the 993 Porsche, the 944 Turbo as well in there of David Bottrell. David, a stalwart racer, he can find somewhere to race of a weekend, he will find it, believe you me. At Paddock, Selden versus Gardner, this for the race lead, and the BMW here going great guns for the moment. Mike Gardner up on the outside line into the hairpin. Surely he can't drive all the way around the outside. No, he can't. Matt Selden hangs on to the place then as they drop down towards Graham Hill Bend. The gap is nothing at all between the two of them. The BMW leads the way. Mike Gardner now eyes up a chance, and he does go through on the inside, and the BMW just seemed to hesitate a little bit coming out of the corner. Mike Gardner has gone through. He's about to lap Matt Cummings in the Lotus, but what's happened to Matt Selden? Because the BMW, having just hesitated coming out of Graham Hill Bend, has not picked up the pace once again. Gardner leads. Where, oh, where, oh, where is Matt Selden? He's heading for the pit lane. Oh, no. After such an encouraging first few laps of the race, also coming in is Chris Randall, so the Lotus has got problems as well. Matt Selden slowly down the pit lane. Desperately bad luck. The team works so hard on this car. It doesn't always last the distance, I'm afraid, but it is a very quick BMW, all 590 brake horsepower's worth of it, but once again the pit lane beckons, and Matt Selden, having led so impressively early on, is out of the race now, as here Jim Geddy tries to hang on to the lead of his group here. Group 2 battle rages on, but he's under huge pressure. Jeff Ledley in the Ferrari, right up behind him. And a mistake by Geddy there coming out of Surtees puts Jeff Ledley alongside him and easily round the outside. Jeff Ledley now takes over the lead of Group 2. Good bit of driving all of that, and it worked well for Jeff, so he's gone by, but Jim Geddy fights back as they come across the line. Ferrari versus Porsche. Sports car racing through the decades really here in a microcosm, but it's the 430 that just fends off the 911 as they go around Paddock. On board with Alex Martin, delayed in race 1 after a puncture when there was contact between him and Vicky Buttle-Henderson when the Ferrari turned in on the Porsche. Now Alex tries to go around the outside of Steve Parrish, who had a spin in race 1. And there's contact between those two, and Alex Martin gets tapped sideways and around he goes. It's not his day. Every time he tries to overtake somebody, there's contact. A big whack between the two. Round goes Alex Martin. Now he tries to sort himself out. Gets back into the race. But I just wonder whether there's going to be another tyre problem for him here. He had a puncture in race 1. Yeah, looks like a puncture in race 2 because that bit of contact between him and Parrish has lacerated the same tyre again, the right rear. So that's the corner that's given all sorts of dramas for Alex Martin's car, the right rear. Happened again for him as Gary Eastwood now comes under pressure from John Dillon going up towards Druids. Battles raging on right the way around the Indy circuit. Rupert Martin there ahead of Marco Pullen. Meantime, what happened to Howard Spooner?
Disappointing end to your race. What happened?
I went up the inside of the Viper around Paddock, and then again around Druids, and he's just such a big heavy car that when he rubbed against me, perfectly acceptable rub, it was too much for my little Morgan to take, so the wheel was smoking and grabbing and trying to pull me in all sorts of directions, so he's broken something in my steering, I think.
Howard Spooner then, a very frustrated retirement as the battles rage on. There is 78, Jim Geddy. Remember, he leads Group 2 at the moment from Jeff Ledley because he's managed to find a way back ahead of the Ferrari. In the earlier race, Jim led, threw himself into the gravel, but he's managed to get the lead back here and keep Jeff Ledley behind him. Fascinating duel between these two. And one of the ways the GT Cup works out so well is the parity between the cars. Ferrari and Porsche evenly matched, as Bertie Carruthers, having gone well early on in the day, sit to the Druids gravel bed, his race run. Race leaders then start the last lap here at Brands Hatch, the last lap of what's been a very successful GT Cup season. Particularly successful if your name is Mike Gardner, because it looks as though he's going to win a game. They're going through to head GT4, Group 4 if you like, Matt Cummings in the Lotus, but Mike Gardner turns his way now up out of Clark Curve, heading towards the line, and another victory goes the way of the Moore Racing Viper. Mike Gardner through to win the last round of GT Cup here at Brands Hatch. Second place, Jim Geddy, who also wins Group 2, and Jeff Ledley is going to be third overall, but runner-up this time around in the group. So Mike Gardner there, the Group 1 winner. Group 3 honours go the way of Marco Pullen. Group 4, Matt Cummings in the Lotus. But the Dodge Viper has been the car to beat all season, despite the efforts here of the Seldons. It remains unbeaten around the Indy circuit. Confirmation then of the results. Mike Gardner wins from Jim Geddy second, Jeff Ledley third ahead of VVH and Marco Pullen fifth. Gary Eastwood sixth, good effort from him ahead of John Dillon, with Henry Furman rounding out the top 8. Matt Cummings ahead of Robert Koenig and David Bottrell in Group 4. Marco Pullen defeats Gary Eastwood and then John Dillon in Group 3. In Group 2, this time, Jim Geddy gets it right. He wins ahead of Jeff Ledley and then Vicky Butler-Henderson. Mike Gardner, the only finisher in Group 1.
So, Mike, you end the season as you began it with a win in the Viper. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic year of GT Cup with massive entries, close racing at every circuit. And now coming to the end of the year, it couldn't have been a better end with 2 wins here at Brands Indy circuit.
Congratulations, Jim. A better end to that race than race 1, huh?
Yeah, that was good. Finished that one well. Disappointed in the first race. Silly mistake by me. But the second race, that was good. Had a good battle with Jeff. Outbraked us. Brakes in the Ferrari are really good. But played a game through traffic and it paid off for me, so delighted with a win. First race in the Newcastle. It's good. Really pleased.
Winner of Group 3, Marco Pullen, another win for you and a great way to end the season.
No, it's a great way to end the season. You know, we've had a great time with the GT Cup. Mark Haynes has put together a great package. Obviously yourself presenting, that's great. And no, it's been really enjoyable.
Matt Cummings, well that's a result that you've been waiting for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly been a long time coming, so feels all the more better for it. So happy with that.
A great way to end the year. You know, you've been pushing for that win all season and finally you've got it.
Yeah, it's it feels jazzed. Obviously, competition's been really stiff all year. It's a shame Will's not here today. He let me use the lucky overalls, so I was more than happy.
I can't quite believe it, actually. I've had the best time. I am such a lucky girl. I really appreciate that this gift that I've been given to race and to come home with a couple of trophies is wicked.
What a fitting way to end the season. 2 fantastic races here at Brands Hatch. Congratulations to all of the winners here today and to everybody that took part this year. GT Cup will be back next spring and we'll be right here bringing you all of the action on Motors TV. Be sure to join us for the 2010 GT Cup.